guys, it's Mady.
And Sonja.
Here to help you bounce back into an abundance mindset. In today's episode of Bounce Back, we're going to be talking about healing and the healing journey and kind of what that entails. And if you're going through a healing journey right now, we're going to share some tips, tricks, and kind of our experience. And, maybe you'll get some good insight into healing in this episode. So we're very excited. And let's just get on into it. So healing and the self-love journey. I feel like, everybody goes through this healing journey, I feel like at some point in your life. I feel like it kind of hits people at different times in your life. So for me, it started a couple years back. And then for you, it was a lot later.
Yeah, I think I had phases of healing throughout my life from different things. But ultimate, was much later. I was, in my mid-40s? We'll say mid-40s.
Yeah, I feel like, and that's something too, I feel like healing never really stops. Like, you're always going to be healing and, growing. But I feel like there is that point in your life where you're like, okay, I need to work on some things. Something that I'm doing is not working, and you hit, a breaking point. Right. And it kind of leads you to healing. You can also put this in the term of being a spiritual awakening, if that's something that you're into. Yeah. Definitely mine came from a spiritual awakening. That's kind of what I feel like happens is, it's just a wake-up call, and you're like, all right, I need to stop giving my energy to so many people and start to focus on myself. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So do you want to start with your journey, or do you want me to start with mine?
You go ahead and start.
My healing journey started pretty much when I was probably 19 years old, 19, 20.
Yeah.
I was kind of going through a rough period of time. I had just gotten out of a relationship, a long-term relationship, and it was just a really hard time in my life. I was having a lot of depression, anxiety. I was on antidepressants. And so, my mom kind of wanted to do anything and everything she could to help me not have to be on medication, because medication is amazing, and I feel like it's great for so many people, and I definitely recommend it if you feel like you need it, right. Because I definitely did need it, but it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be medicated the rest of my life, because I didn't need it. It was a circumstance that caused a lot of that, and so she was kind of trying to find ways of how can we help you without you having to be on these medications. Right. And I've talked about my anxiety in videos on my YouTube channel. I've also talked about my spiritual awakening and spiritual journey. But briefly, I'll kind of discuss what happened. So, my mom has always been very calm and not as I don't know. I feel like I'm just a little more emotional than my mom is. I kind of just I feel my emotions a lot more. And I feel like she kind of knows how to center me. So she kind of told me to start meditating, to start doing breath work and things like that. And I always thought that was kind of woo-woo. I was just this is weird. I don't want to do this. So I kind of went on and off with listening to her, but I was just I don't know. This isn't going to help. What are we, why am I doing this? And it got to a point where my anxiety was so bad that she took me to a friend of a friend who was a Reiki healer. We went and did this full moon circle and some breath work, and she's a healer, so she came and did some healing work on me, and it actually really opened my eyes to the healing journey, and just realizing wow, there is so much more that I don't understand that's out there. And I remember having a conversation with the Reiki healer, and she basically told me, I feel like you're very connected, I feel like you're very intuitive, I feel like you could do what I do. And I was like, what the heck? This was weird. We were doing breath work, we were doing basically manifestations, rituals, but I didn't know what any of it was.
Yeah, and really I think that particular session was connecting to the divine feminine.
And I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
But
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, what prompted you? I actually am curious, because we haven't talked about this. I've mentioned it on my channel, but we haven't really talked about this since it happened. So what prompted you to feel like you needed to take me to do that? Why did that even happen?
Well, it was a full moon meditation, so it was, I've always been attracted to the moon.
She's a Cancer.
I'm a Cancer. The moon's pretty much everything to me. And I just thought that was really interesting. Outside, full moon meditation. It was a beautiful time of year. What I think it was September, right?
Yeah, it was
before your birthday.
It was
September,
fall
October.
time for sure.
Yeah, it was a harvest moon, I think, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I was just fascinated with it, and you were going through some things, and I thought, well, this is an opportunity for you to understand and connect. I felt and not me telling you, but you actually seeing it in person and the different people there, and it's not weird. It's actually real, and it's good, and it's helpful. That's really what prompted me. I knew you needed it,
Yeah.
and I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah. I feel like healing doesn't have to be like spiritually driven, but I do feel like at that point in my life, I had no relationship with anything, whether it was God, like angels. Like I knew that there was something, but I just didn't really have like a religion. So I wasn't really like connected either. So I feel like that was also, I was just kind of like lost in life.
So I was going to interject real quick. You said healing doesn't have to be spiritually driven. True, in the sense of knowingly. There's a difference. You and I talk about this. There's a huge difference between spirituality and religion. That's a whole different topic. I'm sure we'll talk about in an episode in a larger way. But spiritual to me is really just connecting with yourself and with the source, whatever you want to call that, but the source of everything. So religion, is different. We all know about religion and different man-made beliefs and whatnot. We can get into that later. But spiritually, I think when you're healing, you may not know that it is spiritually driven, but it is, because you're connecting. In order for you to heal, you've got to connect with yourself.
Yeah.
And the source.
Yeah, and I feel like what I meant by that was like it doesn't have to be a religious thing. Like it doesn't have to be
Right.
about religion. It's more so just like, yeah, connecting to your spiritual, like being more like open-minded to things. And so yeah, we went to that like Reiki circle, and that kind of just like was like the turning point for me, like something that opened my eyes to realizing like, whoa. And like there were so many different people at this Reiki like healing session, people that like I wouldn't expect to be at something like that.
Right.
And for me, I had never experienced it, so I was like, this is kind of woo-woo. Like, what is this? What are we doing? What is this? Like, because it's a full moon and we're doing all this stuff, and it's just interesting to kind of look back on it now, like where I am, because like now I would appreciate it more, I feel like. But yeah, that was kind of what prompted me into like my healing journey, and I started to actually start researching manifesting, which my mom actually is the one who got me into manifesting, and not even like knowingly, I feel like on my end, like I guess I just kind of just started developing, like learning things, but she was the one who used to tell me like, okay, breathe. Like if I wanted like a response from somebody, like let's say it was like a job or something and I was stressed out about it, she would have me like lay down and meditate and visualize. And it was just crazy because I look back on it now and I'm like, you were the root of everything that I've learned. Like she is the root of all of those things. And as soon as I started getting into the spiritual journey of like, healing or kind of just going along the path of manifesting, you start to actually do the inner work without even knowing. Because like for me, I didn't realize it in the moment, but my anxiety and my depression were all symptoms of a spiritual awakening. They were all symptoms of a healing journey. And I had no idea. I thought I was just going crazy. Like I didn't know what was going on. And so I feel like that's kind of very common for a lot of people, is like you feel like you hit a breaking point. Like it's not rainbows and butterflies. It's not this cool thing where you're like, it's magic. No, it's literally you working with your dark side.
Magic.
It's
but
not. It is.
The end result is.
End result. But when you first start out, it's hard. You're facing your demons. You're facing your darkness. And that's not always very pretty. And a lot of traumas and a lot of things that you forget about, they come up and you have to work through those things. And so healing isn't linear either. It's going to be different for everybody.
That's right.
But that's kind of what prompted my healing journey, kind of going back on that. I feel like I've been talking so much. But I just, that kind of woke me up, and I realized, like I have been dormant for a lot of my life. I haven't been open to anything. I haven't even been really connecting to myself. And I feel like that's why I was being taken advantage of, why I was in these toxic relationships or these karmic relationships, whether it's friendships, like romantic relationships, even like, some family. Like there was a lot of karmic relationships in the sense of just a lot of negativity and a lot of things because I'm so empathetic, because I'm such an open-minded person, I was being taken advantage of, and I wasn't realizing my power.
Well, you were focusing on the wrong things. Mm-hmm. She was focusing on others, not herself. And she thought that was selfish. You thought that was selfish to focus on yourself.
I did.
And part of healing is understand that self-care is not selfish.
No.
In fact, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not able to really be there for anyone else, right?
How are you supposed to help somebody else?
That was a big thing that you struggled with, and you started to learn and have gotten very well at, for the most part now.
Yeah, I definitely choose myself a lot more now. I feel like that's a thing. It takes a while. I mean, like I said, I started in 2019.
I think
2018?
18, I think.
18, but I
Yeah.
was around like 19 years old and I'm 24. And it took me up until now to where I can fully say that I love myself. And like I was just talking to my mom about this the other day. It took me that long. It took me like
Yeah.
6 years to finally be able to say that I love myself again because I went through so much.
And I think you're not alone in that. I think there's so
No.
many people, men and women alike, not just women, but I can speak from a woman's perspective.
Yeah.
I think there's so many women out there that think they don't really think about it. They're so focused. I mean, you're not in this role right now, but society will teach you that as a woman and as a mother, it's you never from that point on you don't have a life anymore. It's never about you.
Yeah.
And so then you have some moms who are the ultimate martyr and follow that to a T. Then you have some that on the other one that aren't really a good parent and they are selfish.
Yeah.
But it's that in between where you really struggle with thinking about yourself and taking care of yourself. But I think that's what you learn, and that's what you as a as a little girl and whatnot, you see that from your family, from your friends,
Yeah.
and you think that's what I've got to do too. So you focus on everyone else's needs and put yours on the back burner.
Yep.
Right.
I feel like I was also around a lot of people that made me feel like I was being selfish. Like when I would choose myself or I would like, try to do things. I was with like a lot of people who were like more like controlling or just like they expected a lot out of me. And like I was never allowed to have my own life. I wasn't allowed to like be on my own. And I developed a lot of codependency because of this. I mean, I've learned, I kind of developed codependency in a multitude of ways from my childhood as well, like just relying on like just my mom. Our childhood was not the easiest thing in the world. And realistically, I only had one parent that was like fully taking on the responsibility of like being my parent and raising me and taking care of me. And so like I relied a lot on my mom. I was always scared that people would leave me. So I felt like I had to do things for other people in order for them to like stay in my life.
Yeah.
And that's where I developed codependency and
you
kind
had
of
a fear
putting
of
others.
abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just put other people above myself because I didn't want to disappoint anyone because I didn't want to lose anybody. And that's what I'm saying is when you go through this healing journey, a lot of things are going to come up that are really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it sucks to deal with. And I always say, like, feel your emotions. Like, I'm the type of person that, like, I have to. Like, I can't bottle it in. So if a memory comes up or something, like, something happens where, like, I get triggered, I let myself feel the emotion, but I also ask myself, where is this coming from? And how can I better this? How can I heal from this? I will say journaling is really, really good for healing. I just feel like it's just like a learned process and it's different for everybody, but
Yeah, it is. No, it definitely is. And it depends on at what age you are too. So for me, when I mentioned a little bit ago that I had multiple healing times, I'm 49. So I've gone through different things from, in my childhood to my teens, to my 20s, 30s, to my 40s. That all of that I've dealt with and healed along the way. But to your point, it wasn't until I was probably early to mid 40s where I really realized, okay, so in order for me to control the outcome of my life in the future, I have to take proactive control of that and not just live what's dealt to me, right? And so by healing, I was able to start defining what do I want and what do I not want, and start seeing things. You start gaining so much clarity. As you start doing that, things come up and you realize, oh, this triggered me. So this is something I haven't healed yet. Let me focus on that.
yeah.
I still have things that, I identify, ooh, I'm still getting a little triggered by this. So I clearly need to heal a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever done, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. No. I mean, that's kind of what I mentioned earlier. Like, I don't think that you ever stop because you're going to have all these experiences in your life that, like, might not be so fun and you have to heal from. It's part of life. And so, there's things that have come up, like, in my life later on, like, more recently that I'm healing from because it's a learned journey. And life isn't perfect and you're going to be thrown tests, curveballs, and it's just how you bounce back
That's
from
right.
those things. And I feel like once you actually have like done the work and you've healed yourself, it's a lot easier to fix those things or to
Right.
work on those things, because you
Right.
already had to deal with so many things that you're like, I will be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let this really like overwhelm me. Like I had a moment yesterday, and I'm going to be realistic because I'm sitting here talking about abundance mindset and I talk about manifesting on my channel, but it's like I have my moments. Like I had something happen to me yesterday and I was really upset about it. And I let myself feel the feelings, but then I also snapped out of it and today got my work done. It's a Sunday and I'm
Yep.
working because I am not going to let one blip or one thing that happened ruin or stop my growth, because it's a test. It's, am I going to fall back into past patterns of
Right.
crying and letting it overtake my life and falling into a depression? Or am I going to keep going and be like, you know what, that was a blip. It sucks, but I have to take my own advice and move forward from it. It's a
Yeah.
blip. It's not
Yeah.
going to last forever.
I was watching a piece of a podcast this past week, and something that stood out to me was it was a guy, I forget his name, but it was an interview that Tom Bilyeu was doing on Impact Theory, and he was talking about growing up, and it was just a clip, so I think he was talking about his father, but he said it's okay to have that blip and to take 5 minutes, yell, scream, do whatever you need to do,
This is
right?
what she told me yesterday when I was
And
crying.
then and then you have to say 3 words. And this is what stood out to me. 3 words. You say, take a deep breath, and you say, can't change that. Boom, you're done. You're on off to the next thing. You can't change the past. So what this is that you dealt with yesterday, it was something that you live and you learn, right? You know what to do going forward, so it doesn't happen again. So you deal with it. There's a solution, and we're going to go ahead and go forward. But it's okay to have those blips. You just have to realize you can't live in the past and past mistakes, because if you do that, then you're setting yourself up to continue those same patterns.
Like I said, healing isn't linear, and we just kind of wanted to like talk about the healing journey and kind of like touch on it, because I feel like everybody is going through their own healing journey, and to kind of get some insight to like other people's perspectives. Like my journey and her journey are completely different,
Yep.
but also to have people that help you along the way. And I've been fortunate enough to have my mom, who has been very open minded and very like awoken to like her inner self and her higher self, I guess you could say, kind of helped me through the process. And it's interesting because I kind of just became this like spiritual coach on accident after my mom introduced me to the healing journey and my spiritual awakening and all of that. And so we kind of just bounce off each other, and help each other now. And it's a good feeling to have like-minded people around you as well that like kind of are open to the idea or the topic too, because it helps when you can talk to people.
Yeah.
And
While everyone's journey may be, the specifics might be different, the same rules apply as far as, not rules, but the same healing tools.
yeah,
Let's put it that way. Apply, right? The way you do the work is going to be the same, even though you're dealing with different issues. So it does help. And I'll tell you, I think you'll agree. One of the best feelings is when you finally, something that used to trigger you,
oh my God.
like you don't have a
You just don't
reaction,
care.
and it's not just you don't have a reaction. The first time that you realize that, oh my God, this happened. I used to, whether you did anything outward, inside, maybe inside, it used to just like, you freak out inside, whether you visibly showed it.
Yeah.
But when you don't even feel it inside, you're just like, so good.
It's just something that
It
like,
makes everything worthwhile,
yeah,
doesn't it?
because
Yeah.
then you realize, wow, I really have done the work, because
done the
I do
work.
not care and I am still focusing on myself.
Yeah.
And there will be times where you'll be tested and people will come back or certain things will trigger you,
Well,
and
the
it's
universe just does it one more time.
to test you to see like, are you ready for what
make
you
sure.
asked for?
Yeah.
And it's just such a liberating feeling to know that like, wow, I really bossed up and
Yeah.
I'm okay now. And
Yeah.
the things that used to really set me back and get me into a whirlwind of emotions don't have that effect on me
Yeah.
anymore, because I'm stronger than that. So
Well, the one thing that I always used to practice with myself is, if you're reacting, you still have work
it's a
to
trigger.
do,
Yeah.
right? It's a trigger. So when I've learned, when I turn it to responding, it's a thoughtful response,
Yep.
right? There's no reaction at all. It's a thoughtful response.
Yeah.
That's when I know that I'm done and I can move on to the next thing I need to heal, right?
Exactly. It's like taking a moment to just be like, okay, like let's just not react, like observe. Don't
Yeah.
react. Like, that's kind of what I've started doing is I just don't react right away
It's
anymore.
so
I'm not
peaceful.
impulsive. Yeah.
So peaceful.
Because then you realize after you like let your emotions go, you're like, oh my gosh, if I
And
would have responded at that point,
Right.
it would have caused so many things. But because I took the time to step back and really like evaluate the situation and like, do I really care or am I just like heated because of this? Like, you're able to actually avoid a lot of things that could have gone wrong too.
Well, and something else that I've always thought, it just in general, forget about the healing journey, but I'm in sales, and so I'm talking a lot, and I have to listen to really hear what people are saying and aren't saying. A lot of people don't really take the time to actively listen. And so when I say actively listen, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you're thinking of your response before they've even finished talking. So you're not actually listening, digesting it, and then forming your response, right?
Yeah.
And I think because of the career that I am in, the path that I'm in, I have to do that. So I've become really good at it, and I started applying that not just to work, but to my personal life and to all other relationships. I think you'll see with you, even, right? I mean, sometimes I'm sure when she was a teenager, I wasn't even listening to what you were saying, right?
No.
I was just like, oh, I'm already
Well,
done. I know what you're gonna say. I'm done.
and
Now I'm like, okay, now I'll respond.
no, but now it's kind of funny because instead of that, we'll both be like I'll be on my phone and she'll be telling me something. I'm like, or she'll do it to me, and I'm like, you didn't listen to me, and she's like, you didn't listen to me, and we're like calling each other out on it because it's not even just like that. We're just not like paying attention. But it's funny when you can, work through those things, and like we've had to work through some things together too. Like we've had to go through some things and like work through some past things, and like now it's just so interesting because I've always been close to my mom, but like I really mean it when I say she's like one of my best friends. She's definitely like a best friend of mine and someone that like I'm just like lucky to call a mom. And so I'm just excited that we get to do this together and that we've gone through our healing together too, and she's helped me. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to make this episode to just kind of like talk about it because that's something that I feel like is so important for every single person. And, hopefully this helped you in some way or just you were able to relate in some way. But yeah, we appreciate you guys watching these videos and, listening to this podcast. And we're excited to bring you more and more episodes. So we hope you enjoy the podcast and we'll see you in the next episode.